This review is of Noctua's NH-U12A CPU tower cooler. It's award-winning, 100% RAM compatibility on LGA 115X and 1200 and 17XX and AM4. Classic 120mm tower size for excellent case and PCIe compatibility. Dual NF A12 by 25 120mm fans. PWM support and low noise adapters. Secure Firm 2 multi-socket mounting systems, which not all of their coolers have. NT-H1 thermal compound, and they give you more than you actually need for a single application. So if you have to remount it, you've got extra. And a 6-year manufacturer's warranty. And 140mm cost performance in 120mm size. On top of that, here are the specifications. So you can see a lot about it and the dimensions. Now, the reason I chose this out of a short list that was recommended to me by other people was my motherboard is built in such a way that there's very limited space available to fit in a CPU tower cooler. But my case is very wide, so there was a lot of space to have a very tall cooler. And so after evaluating carefully this versus all-in-one water coolers and other tower coolers, I determined that this was going to be the best choice. But, I think that probably one of the things that took the longest when I was building the computer was figuring out the cooling system. And here are all the features. Award-winning, 140mm blah, 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 100% RAM compatibility, which means that it won't get in the way of the RAM. There are a lot of coolers, including from Noctua, that overhang the RAM. Some of them, in order to remove the RAM, you have to remove the CPU cooler. Others of them, they hang so low that you can't even put a RAM card into that slot, so it's very important to pay attention to that stuff. I had to do a lot of very careful measurements to try and figure out which cooler was going to fit my motherboard properly. Classic 120mm tower size, although it is pretty tall. So if you've got a small case, or a narrow case, I should say, this is not going to be the cooler for you. It's got 2 fans, which is something I thought was very important because I don't have air conditioning. Soldered interface between heat pipes and fans. It's got PWM and low noise adapter if you want to have it at lower speeds but a bit quieter. And the Secure Firm mounting system, which again, not all of the Noctua's coolers have, but it is very important. Compatibility with past and future sockets, and 6 years manufacturer warranty. So I can't show you the cooler in its entirety because I installed it back in October in my new PC. And you're going to say, oh, Glenn, you must be getting rich off your YouTube channels. No, I haven't earned a dime. I put a lot of time and effort and money into my channels. And I've earned absolutely nothing because it's not monetized. And unless there's interest from viewers to go on like Patreon or something like that, it's going to continue to be my labor of love, I guess you could say, financed by myself. And I'm not exactly a rich guy, so if there's interest out there from people who want to donate to support my efforts on my channels, please let me know. So when you open it up, the first thing you see is what's supposed to be inside. There's a hex wrench, and there's the syringe for administering the heat compound. There is, let's see, the low noise adapter cable. There's a Y cable so you can plug in 2 fans into one PWM socket, which means that they'll both be treated as a single fan. The controller will not recognize that there are 2 fans plugged in. They will work in synchrony. There's also the Secure Firm 2 mounting tray for these parts to connect it to different kinds of CPUs. And I've already used some of this, but not all of it. So when you get it, this is actually for that covers the base of the tower, the part that's going to be on the CPU. So you need to keep it and keep it clean, especially if you're building computers to sell them. You don't want to have the cooler attached to the CPU during transportation, because I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter if it's UPS, FedEx, DHL, USPS, Amazon, or anybody else. Shipping a computer with a big tower cooler attached to your CPU is a recipe for disaster. It's going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to piss off your customers because it's going to become detached. It may destroy the CPU, if not the motherboard, and then you'll have a pile of junk from which you can extract certain parts. But the motherboard and the CPU will most likely be destroyed, as will the cooler. So don't lose this. It also gives you instructions on how to do the mounting for both AMD and Intel that are compatible with it. And remember, when you're buying a cooler, make sure you're choosing a cooler that matches the type of socket you have. Make sure that, please, make sure that the CPU socket type matches the socket on the motherboard, because it doesn't matter which cooler you get. If the CPU and the motherboard don't match each other, you're not going to be able to attach a cooler. Yes, I'm sick. Sorry. All right. So then you get your the cooler sits inside of there, and then all the hardware that comes with it is inside this box that doubles as an inventory list. And of course, all that's left are the brackets for the AMD mounting, and I've got spacers for the AMD and other spacers. They even give you extra spacers and screws and stuff like that. I've got the, I'm sorry, it wasn't a hex wrench. It's a screwdriver with an L. So there's that to do the installation, so you don't need any tools. And then there are these parts. So I've got the tube that still has lots of heat compound in it, and the black tip is to keep that from drying out. And I've got the low noise adapter, and I've got the extension, and I've got the Y cable in there. Sorry about the crinkly noise. I know some people hate that. And so everything's in there that I don't need. I can always save it for the future if I want to transfer this to another computer. But I've got a really good computer, and I think this computer's going to last me a long time. Just like my last one lasted me a really long time. But that was mostly because I just could not afford anything. I mean, my laptop was more than 10 years old, and it was so... I didn't realize it until I switched to this computer, but my laptop was so slow. All right, so first I'm going to show you it mounted in my case. And so you can see it is pretty beastly big, but you can also see there are my two RAM sticks, and it doesn't overhang the RAM, and that means that I never have to remove this just to add or change RAM. And you can also see the edges. This is an Asus H670 Pro with Wi-Fi DDR4 motherboard, a tough gaming motherboard. And you can see that there's some overhang here and here of the static, not static, the heat sinks for the motherboard. So it does take up a large amount of space. It also does not prevent me from installing another M2 PCIe card over here. And this is my graphics card, this gigantic monster. But yeah, so it looks kind of nice. I mean, I know there are people who don't like the color scheme of the Noctuas, which is this dark brown and light brown, but I kind of like it. And honestly, I don't look inside my computer, so it doesn't really, in the end, matter. It doesn't matter that the motherboard and the RAM and stuff are all black. I don't care. I've got my RGB fans turned off because I don't care. I will turn off the RGBs on the motherboard because I don't care. It's not important. So, and as you can see, I've got a couple of Noctua fans in here as well. But yeah, so I've been very happy with it. It's done a great job of keeping my CPU cool. Um, Absolutely no complaints. It was pretty easy to install, although I was a little bit confused about the right way to mount it on the CPU, but I figured it out so that it didn't overhang anything important, and that worked out great. So thank you to Noctua for your support and patience as I asked question after question after question about the coolers and about the fans and everything else. You guys did a really nice job of that. Just wish you were a little bit faster in responding. And yeah, so I definitely would recommend taking a look at Noctua for cooling your computers. The only thing I really wish could have been done differently, I guess, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know what I'm talking about here really, but I always have a little bit of paranoia. This is not light, it's kind of heavy. So I'm always concerned because of the weight pulling down in that direction of eventual damage to the motherboard. And I don't know if there's anything that can actually be done, like putting a piece of wood from here down to there or something like that, or if anything is possible, or if it's even necessary. But I'm very happy with this product. So thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.